Australians of Reddit, what is the scariest encounter you've had with one of the native animals? While I was mowing, saw a snake. Thought it was a red-bellied black snake. Get them all the time. So I took a stick and hit the ground near it to scare it off. Ducking thing arced up, hissed and charged at me. I took off. It was a tiger snake. Came home from work and went to step outside to enjoy the garden when I noticed an intense buzzing. I look down and there's a spider wasp and a huntsman spider having a Godzilla, King of the Monsters showdown, wrestling all over the patio area. The spider wasp stung the huntsman into submission and dragged it over to a hole in the wall. I later learned that the spider wasp lays her eggs in the barely living body and uses it as an incubator. Nice. In another huntsman incident, the one I keep in my garage dropped into my lap from the sun visor in my car as I reversed out of my driveway. I screamed for a bit before scooping him up and popping him back in the garage. I warned him not to get in my car again. Anyone watching would have found a grown man lecturing a ducking huge spider a bit weird. I do generally like them though, hence not killing it. I've also been chased by an emu while cycling a few times. They're ducking deranged. Came home after 2 weeks away. My parents picked me up, unloaded my suitcase, loaded it up themselves, then left on holidays. That night, I was sleeping on my stomach, and a possum came in through the window and landed on the soles of my feet. I'm guessing he had pushed through the fly screen while I was away and had been sleeping in my room. All I knew is something big and hairy landed on me. I lashed out, and he went flying across the room. I left pretty quick and slept on the couch. Lived in the outback. Was just minding my own business walking past the local cinema and a 6-foot emu came running out from behind a tree and nearly knocked me down. Scared the absolute crap out of me. Follow up. Emus were not supposed to be in the township. There was a fence to keep them out. So town services had to forcibly evict it. They achieved this by driving up close to it, throwing a noose around its neck, quickly winding up the windows and slowly escorting it out of town. Bad idea. They are surprisingly strong and it kicked in the whole side of the vehicle in the process. About 5 years ago I was fully envenomated by a king brown while working on a remote mine site in the Pilbara, WA. I had all sorts of side effects from the antivenom, including blindness. It took 2 years to fully recover. I'm not from Australia but lived in Brisbane for a year while studying abroad. Was walking to the bars with a friend in the evening. Quite dark out even on suburb city streets. So I pulled out my smartphone camera light. Just as I do so, I pan up to rustling in a nearby tree and there is a giant bat on a tree that turns around and spreads its wings like it's Batman. We ran out of there damn fast. After that, along with spider webs, I no longer walk on sidewalks into the suburbs, even during the day. Went into my shed, no lights, only to find out it was full of redbacks with webs in every corner. Now I am not scared of spiders but holy Christ. Half a bloody dozen were crawling all over me. Lucky I had some friends that were more than happy to smack them off. A leech attached itself to the middle of my eyeball while I was hiking in the rainforest. My friends wanted to piss on it or light a match over it, but neither solution seemed ideal. So I waited while it wiggled about, filled up with blood, and finally dropped off an hour later. The following week I went on a date with one of the guys I met on that hike. Even though I still had a zombie eye from the leech bite. 10 years on. Last year, he and I went back to the place where he first looked me in the eye with that leech wiggling about, and we were married in the rainforest with our friends standing by. 3 dingus rolled up on me and my sisters on Fraser Island. Dad chased them off with a big stick before they could do anything besides make all 3 of us shit ourselves. Being swooped by magpies and even plovers. They are very territorial and annoying as duck. When they swoop they don't generally hit you but get close enough for you to hear them swoop next to your head. Woke up in the middle of the night and walked half asleep into the kitchen for a drink. Turned the light on and am greeted by hundreds and hundreds of baby spiders, about the size of your pinky nail, on every surface of the kitchen. There were tiny webs like streamers cascading from the ceiling, and they were coming out of every crack and crevice like a ducking horror movie. I shut the kitchen door behind me to try and stop them infesting the rest of the house and sprayed the entire contents of the 4 cans of bug spray I had, both surface spray and flying insect spray. After the first can I had to keep exiting the room to breath, but I sprayed until I couldn't see anything moving anymore, and then contemplated going to buy more spray. I had to throw out every item of food that wasn't sealed and wash the entire kitchen contents, including the walls where hundreds of little black dots made up the mass grave of baby spider carcasses. I'm not afraid of spiders, and it's common here to often find bugs inside. We have a lot of bugs and our houses aren't generally sealed up very well. But damn, that was the stuff of nightmares. Still makes my skin crawl thinking about it. In bed. Felt something scutter over my chest. Turned on the light. Saw nothing. Then as I went to turn the light off, saw a giant ducking huntsman crawl under the mattress. I was so tired that I left it, but it still freaks me the duck out. Hubby and a couple of mates were swimming in the dam in their jocks when someone yelled out, "Crocodile." But it was an 8-foot black snake swimming out after them on top of the water. Hubby went back to the gum tree to get his clothes, and the black snake had curled up next to their pile of clothes. They walked about 2 miles back home in wet jocks, barefoot. The 3 of them went back on the tractor with a shotgun but couldn't find the snake. He also reckons he saw a black panther in the bush, but I'm skeptical. I was sleeping in my bed and suddenly woke up for no reason. I looked around for a bit before noticing the largest huntsman spider I had ever seen in my life, clinging to the ceiling right over my head, and as soon as I saw it I panicked and leaped out of bed. And not 10 seconds later the spider had dropped down onto my pillow right where my head would have been. That incident literally gave me arachnophobia. I was driving on a straight and sealed road through barren land and had not seen anything on the road or to either side for about half an hour when I had to decelerate heavily to avoid driving into a group of half a dozen emus who were startled and who scattered in all directions. My mother-in-law called me over to her house because she thought her cat had been bitten by a brown snake. She asked me to bring a shovel. I drove over and found the snake in the backyard. I whacked that thing as hard as I could 10 times with the flat side of the shovel. The snake reared up a couple times until it slumped into a heap, bleeding. I put the snake in a plastic bag and tied it shut. I placed it between my legs while wife drove to the vet to get the cat checked out. I brought the snake so the vet could identify if it was a brown snake. When we arrived, the vet had just completed surgery on a dog and laid the dog on the floor. They opened the bag and the snake slithered off the table onto the floor and started moving toward the dog. A nurse covered the snake with a box and got a hammer. She later smashed its head with the hammer. I seriously couldn't believe it was still alive after the beating I gave it. Now I know I should have hit it with the edge of the shovel, cutting its head. Edit. Yes, it was a brown snake. And yes, both the cat and dog were fine. Turns out the cat wasn't bitten after all. Also, knowing what I know now, I would not attempt to kill a brown snake anymore. I would call a professional to handle it. Jesus Christ, thank you for triggering this wonderful childhood memory that I had joyfully buried deep into my subconscious until this moment. One of my childhood friends lived on a big farm in WA, and we'd spend most of the holidays staying at her place doing whatever farm-related mischief 2 8-year-olds could get up to all day, then passing out like the dead. Anyway, one morning I woke up and she was sitting on the floor in the middle of the room staring at me. My immediate reaction was, "What the shit are you doing?" She pointed behind me at the biggest goddamn huntsman I had ever seen, a few inches from my head, just relaxing on the wall having a grand old time. I asked her why the duck she didn't poke me and get me out of bed and preferably to another planet, far away from that monstrosity, and she replied, "Because a minute ago it was on your face."